I'm here with Marissa Spinazzola, the head field hockey coach at Mercy University. Thanks for your time, coach, and how are you doing today?
Thanks, Gavin. Thanks for having me. I'm doing all right. I'm enjoying being in the office in the warm weather. Hoping to stay away from outside where it's really cold out.
Yeah, you just mentioned the cold weather. I know you're at Mercy University in New York. It's probably pretty cold there in February. So how's your winter been so far?
Yeah, winter's been a little crazy based on the snow we had a couple of weekends ago. The field was still covered in snow, so we've been adjusting to some of the facilities around us that are indoor facilities as well as using the gym space inside. So it's not easy getting into our spaces to get practices done, but we're doing what we can with the space that we have until the snow clears up.
Okay, so I know, well, first off, just to make you feel better, even I'm here in Georgia and it snowed this past Saturday night. So even down south, we got snow. So
I can't
we
believe it.
got
Yeah, it's been crazy.
But yeah, so you mentioned getting practices in. Your team will practice even in the winter because I know field hockey is a fall sport, but your team practices in the winter. And just tell me a little bit about how you navigate, the weather and just getting practice in during the winter.
Yeah, so during winter, it's our off season, and we still want to make sure we're getting with our athletes as much as we can. The demand isn't as much as in the fall because they don't have as much games and practices. So when we're in the winter in our off season, we do a lot of focusing on the gym and being in the weight room, working with our strength and conditioning coach, JD, who puts up programs for us that really keep us in shape going into the summer, providing our athletes with those different tools that they can use on their own when they get back. When we have the opportunities to be inside or get out on the field, using those times wisely and getting and focusing on our strength, our speed. It's a lot of conditioning in the off season and really focusing on the fundamentals that we might not be able to always focus on during our season because we really need to prepare for games.
Yeah. And you kind of were just touching on this with your previous answer, but for my next question, I'm interested in learning what are some of the things your team, works on or does, during the off season when you're not in season during, the fall.
Yeah, so during the off season, it's a lot about making sure that they're still trying to find time to be together as a team. So a lot in the fall, we do a lot of team bonding activities. The girls will do things and have dinners alone. They'll have a movie night. We make sure that even though we're not going to be seeing each other every single day, that at least they are communicating with each other on the team. We get to have little touch points. We have study hall once a week, which is team study hall to hold everyone on the team accountable, to make sure our GPA is at where it should be. And, being a student athlete, it's not always about just athletics. It's really about that student part and getting that education. And during that spring season, we put a really big focus on making sure we're maintaining our grades, picking up if we struggled a little bit in the fall during season, how we can bounce back. So a lot of the postseason and this winter season, we focus on getting stronger with our skills, with our speed, our strength, as well as in the classroom, and really making that team chemistry that we're going to have a new team going into the fall season next year. The current team starts to communicate with our commits for next year, and they just really try to build that dynamic that we're looking for before everyone heads home for the summer.
Yeah, so you're talking about team chemistry. So, I know every year you have a new team, new players, new roster, but do you like, each year for your team to be fairly close, have a good bond? You were mentioning team chemistry, so just, talk about that and how you just, build a team chemistry for your team.
Yeah, I think when I became the head coach, that was one thing I really wanted to make sure I was bringing apart. We always had that chemistry of being a team, being a family dynamic, but it wasn't always to a point where, we're doing things together outside in the summer when we're not all together. And a lot of that comes in with our captains and who leads our program, as well as just our team and players wanting to be together and wanting the best for each individual athlete. And we got out of the way that we compare each other and really focused on like, you might be really good at this and I might be really good at this, but now how can I help that other person? And it's become a lot better doing like we thinking rather than you and I. So that's helped that mindset and understanding that when we're together as that team, this is what we're doing. We are teammates, we are family, and then outside, you still want to make sure we're bringing that in the understanding that at the end of the day, not everyone is going to be best friends or be friends after they graduate, but throughout on my team and throughout this school, making sure that we have that understanding of we might not be the best of friends, but if you need something, I'm here to pick you up. So it's just like translate onto the field where you miss a pass, I'm right here to back you up. You don't have to worry about that. So a lot of it is getting together, just talking, doing some mental health things, activities, just taking apart the field hockey aspect and really letting them be themselves and, advocate for each other and themselves throughout the team. So making no hierarchy, like you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, grad student, everyone is equal on the team. And it's about giving and earning that respect. And I think now that we're in this mindset of we are equal and we have our responsibilities, and this is the team that we're going to go through, and understanding that you only get one opportunity every day to play with this exact team. This group has not taken that for granted. And I think that they are excited to always be together. And I think that's what's helped that chemistry.
That's great, Coach. I really like hearing that for your team, you treat everyone, with respect and equally, whether they're a freshman or whether they're, senior or grad students. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to talk about your past season this fall. So, how would you assess your team's past season? And second part to my question, after the season ends, like a month later or a few weeks after, do you usually take time to reflect and, assess your team's past season and, you know, work on it over the winter and the spring?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this past season, our record I feel, doesn't reflect the work that these kids have put in and how they came in this season. This season, we were really a tight dynamic, and the results we didn't always get, but we were scoring against teams we've never scored against. We were taking teams to stronger competitions. We weren't getting shut out as much. And the best part of this team and this group throughout that season was that they never gave up. It wasn't that they lost a game and they put their head down. They were ready for the next one, and there was no blaming. So as much as our record and we didn't get to the postseason like we wanted to, and we missed it just by a head-to-head game, they still put in their work and their effort. And I believe that they improved and showed up every single day to get better. And now to answer the second part of your question, I definitely do take a week or two after the season to unwind, kind of watch some film, think about things from a coaching perspective, from my athlete's perspective. And I like to have individual meetings lining up to that after that 2 weeks of me being decompressing the season and going through it. Like to have individual meetings with them and my coaching staff to make sure, how they feel like the season went, get their feedback if there's things that maybe we implemented that didn't really work, or we found something else. Like, I want to be able to hear that as well. And I think that having our athletes' perspective of things that they felt worked and didn't work helps me prepare for this next upcoming off season that's now the winter, and knows what to do going into the fall season in 2026.
Great. Question, Coach. So I was doing my research. Does your team compete in the NE10?
Yeah, so this
Okay.
last year is going to be last year we are in the NE10. We are going to be in the ECC next year. So that's
Oh, okay.
another really exciting thing for me as a former athlete and now a coach here, is that we've always been the only team in Mercy that is a part of the NE10. And now we're officially going to be a part of the ECC fall 2026. So that's been really exciting for the team and has given them something to look forward to and really compete for. So we're super excited about that.
Oh, I asked that question because I went to an NE10 school, St. Michael's in Vermont, and so I asked that question. I never knew that Mercy was in the NE10, but that makes sense.
Yeah,
Your team
we
is
were
the
the
only
only
one in the.
team.
Okay, that makes sense. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Just tell me a little bit about your team. And, any notable players or just any players who did really well this past season that you want to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one thing I really like about my team is I feel like we don't always just have that one person. And, if someone isn't performing their best, we have other people that pick them up and might be a superstar that day.
Yeah.
So for me, that's great as a coach, as I'm able to move people around and be able to utilize our athletes to the best of their abilities. And if our top player isn't having the best game, we're able to have people that support. I think like Jess Evans, who is our grad student this year, she was a 4-year captain for us. She had a great season coming off of an injury and, really making this her own and not being that selfish player. So finding the back of the net, but ensuring that, understanding and congratulating her teammates in a sense, like, you got this here, like, we're able to finish it, and really bringing that team dynamic and having her have all the success that she did in this last year was something that brought the team fully together, and we were really excited for her. As well as like Charlotte Sabert, who is now a sophomore, going to be a junior next year. She came in freshman year. She was a starter for us, but a little bit timid this year. She was not afraid to go to the cage, not afraid to throw a reverse chip in there, scored a huge goal against Bloomsburg in a game that was really lopsided, but put us on the board in a beautiful reverse chip. So that, like, having her there has been great. Our defensive unit, I think having Reagan back there, we're really going to miss her next year. She's been an anchor on our defensive end. But our kids are so adjustable and willing to adapt to what they need. And like Eunice Santiago has been doing a great job on the left side. Having her become more vocal, I think that could be a huge benefit for us. Same thing with Adriana Tainer on our right side defense. She implemented some offensive abilities this year, and her and Gwen Smith, who was a freshman starter for us, really worked well together where they were able to highlight each other's assets and help each other on the back end when they maybe fumbled a pass or maybe weren't able to step up to the ball. And they together have created a really strong unit on that right side. So it's great to have all these younger faces like Gwen, who came in ready to go as a freshman, knowing what she was capable of this season for her first year and what she can do coming in next year with that experience. I think it's going to be really special. And the fact that we're able to play not just our seniors or juniors and have those freshmen and sophomores getting that experience now is just going to continue to set us up positively for the future. And having one of our goalkeepers back, Kaylee's, who put on a great job, was stepped up, didn't get the start at the beginning of the year, stepped up during some big games and ended up starting for us and never leaving. And she was a tremendous asset to us. And I'm super excited to have her back for 2 more years and really make a name for herself in this new conference.
Yeah, so you're mentioning a lot of your players, and not to signal out single out any other any one player, but I do have to talk about probably one of your top players, Jess Evans.
Mm-hmm.
She's a graduate student. I believe I did my research correctly. This past year, she was named to the third team All NE10. So that was one of her accolades for this past season. But just given that she's one of your top players, a graduate student, what has Jess meant to you and your program?
Jess is, there are not enough words to say what Jess means to this program. I think that throughout all of her years, she's really developed a different role than other athletes. She kind of was able to understand the game from a coaching perspective a little bit more and develop her IQ, which when she was able to be on the field this year really helped her. And I think that's what set her apart from the rest and really made some noise on the scoreboard. She was like 2 points away from breaking the single season record, where previous years she maybe had 3 or 4 goals on the year. So having her
Okay.
be able to come back this last year and really leave it all out on the field and give everything she can, to have her be named to third team All NE10 was really special, especially that we don't always get named to these things, and for her to be recognized, and especially on the senior team too. I think it was a great way for her to end her career as a Maverick and as a field hockey player. And I'm over the moon for her and for her accomplishments this year. She worked hard to be able to be where she is and to get everything that she deserves.
Yeah, that's great. So now I want to talk about some of your background, Coach. You attended Mercy University. You played, two-sport athlete. You played field hockey and lacrosse. So you grew up on Long Island in Port Jefferson Station, New York. So you're about, I think, hour and a half when I did my research from Mercy. So just
Mm-hmm.
tell me about growing up on Long Island. How you got started playing field hockey, and then what drew you to Mercy for college.
Yeah, so growing up on Long Island, I loved every minute about it. I loved being by the water. just the town. Port Jeff was a small community. I went to Comstock High School where we had really good coaches and athletic department where I felt heard in a sense, and I really found myself throughout athletics and um, wasn't always very outspoken, but loved just being a part of the game. If it was field hockey, lacrosse, being a part of the basketball team as a manager, different things like that. It just gave so many opportunities. And throughout Long Island, I felt that I made a lot of connections before getting to Mercy. And throughout my recruiting, I was really focusing on lacrosse, and I thought that was going to be it. And putting all my eggs in one basket, loved lacrosse, wanted to be here to play lacrosse, and going to schools to just look for lacrosse. And a former Mercy alum who I grew up with and her younger sisters played at Mercy field hockey and lacrosse, and
Okay.
was speaking to me and her coaches about me. And one of her field hockey coaches came to one of my games, and that's when it started to have the conversation like, oh, I'm might be able to do field hockey and lacrosse. And, if this is the opportunity that Mercy is giving me, I don't want to give up both sports. I love being able to play both. I liked being a part of different dynamics, because as much as lacrosse and field hockey are similar, they're also very different. And I think the different coaching styles that I've been to in both things just were different and gave me a different perspective. So when I came to Mercy, I recognized the field on the Hudson River, knew that it was close. It wasn't too far from home. I absolutely fell in love with it. Loved the campus. I liked how it was close to New York City. I could take the train home if I wanted to. My parents were big believers of, if you want to play a sport in college and you're able to, we want to be able to be there and support you. So having Mercy only about like an hour and a half, 2 hours away made that possible for them. And that really like solidified, okay, this place, this community is where I want to be. And being able to just be on both teams at a Division II level and compete for both field hockey and lacrosse was something I wasn't ready to give up. And I was beyond grateful that Coach Dawn and Coach Kate Kinsley, who's now the pace coach, trusted me and brought me in to be able to play both sports.
That's great. So it definitely sounded like you were interested going into college playing, both field hockey and lacrosse. But tell me how it was, at Mercy during your time attending there. What was it like, playing both field hockey and lacrosse? Because, it could be a lot, traveling to games, balancing academics. I'm sure you
Mhm.
see just from, your student athletes that you coach, just playing one sport can be, time consuming enough and busy for them and a lot. But you play two sports. So just tell me how it was, playing two sports and balancing different things during your college time. And then senior year, you won two ECC championships. You won one field hockey and one lacrosse. So just tell me also how special it was to win some conference championships your senior year in both sports.
Yeah, so balancing, I would have to say it's definitely helped me in the long run. Being a two-sport athlete, I'm able to balance different obligations and manage my time a lot more wisely, I think, than I first came in. When I first came in, I don't think I was expecting the demand as much as it was, as I did grow up playing two sports, playing a club sport with high school sports and travel, but the different demand of being away from home, not having your parents, having to go to school, also showing up to practices, it definitely took a lot of adjustment at first. But I was really grateful that we had a older player who was Jen Wandel. She was also a field hockey and lacrosse player. So as I was going through it, she's already been through it and was able to really help me and guide me and just advocate for when I felt like I couldn't advocate for myself, and just showed the ropes so I wasn't alone in that transition. Once I got it down pat, it was just mindless. I was able to go from lacrosse practice right over to field hockey practice. It was lined up really nicely where one fell into the other. There was days I was completely exhausted, but I was able to work with both my coaches. And if I just had a game. Maybe I didn't participate in lacrosse practice that day because I had a field hockey game, but I still showed up and I still wanted to be a part of that team and support my teammates where when I couldn't actually be on the field. So having coaches that were understanding and willing to work with me, I think was a huge factor of me being able to balance the two sports. But I also think it taught me a lot with being on the two sports. I went through, as a field hockey player, I went through three different coaches in my 4 years there. Whereas lacrosse, I had the same coach my 4 years. And the
Okay.
difference between the two programs was just the consistency. With lacrosse, we had the constant. We knew who was showing up. We knew what we were doing. We became super successful. And field hockey, after my senior year, we weren't as consistent. And then that's when I became on board. And, I think that was tough as an athlete, is not having like that person that my lacrosse coach was, where she was understanding of my situation and knew how to navigate that with me and also hold me to those expectations. Where the field hockey coach, if she was coming in new, didn't know the expectations as well. So sometimes that was hard for me. But again, having that athlete who was my friend and teammate, being able to balance both with me, let me lead the way for other kids once they came into the program, if they were able to play both sports, give them some peace of mind and tell them what worked for me and what didn't. But it really was about just communicating, advocating for myself, and keeping organized. I was able to play two sports, do really well in my academics, as well as coach outside of school and be an employee. So really, it helped me become a better at time management, I would say, and just provided me a lot of different experiences that single athletes might not be going through. Where I just came home from a long trip, but tomorrow I have to go to a lacrosse tournament for the scrimmage for fall season. So with all of that, I think I wouldn't have traded it for the world. There was definitely moments I was questioning, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself in this? But every time at the end of those conversations is always like, I wouldn't want to step away from either. And, being able to end my last year with all the changes in field hockey, that one year we were in a ECC conference, winning it all, being able to be a part of that, and then doing the same thing with lacrosse was was so cool. It was something that, not everyone gets to do. And to be on the full year of two ECC championships, I think it was really cool. And the boys also won the ECC that year, the men's lacrosse team. So having all three of us win the ECCs and the boys and girls winning at the same time, it was electric. That's, I guess, the verbiage I would use for it. Is just it was an awesome experience and something I want to continue to happen for all my athletes. And it's just something you can't let go, that feeling.
Yeah. So you have a background with mental health, and also see that you're trained to work with individuals with special needs. So can you just
Mhm.
tell me a little bit about your background with, mental health? What got you interested in mental health? And then also, I thought it would be interesting to get your perspective as a college coach. What are some important things about mental health, for student athletes and for non-student athletes?
Yeah. So, getting into mental health, I always knew I wanted to help people and be able to be someone that could change lives, if it's my athletes, if it's friends, family. And I kept on going back and forth. I really wanted to be a police officer for a really long time. And I kept on doing my research, and that was the path I was going to take. And one of my student athletes, who, when I was an assistant coach, came up to me, and we always talked about things that were going on and whatnot. And she brought up to me like, hey, have you ever looked into mental health or mental health counseling? I think like you would be really good at that. And at that point, I didn't really know much about mental health. I always heard about social work, therapists, and all of that. And so when I started to look more into it, I was like, yeah, this seems more of what I really want to do and how I could really impact people in a positive way. And so I kind of pivoted my career path stuck at Mercy, was the assistant coach, was getting my schooling for my master's in mental health, and found that it's not only important for me and the people around me and those individuals that I'm going to help. It's so important to have mental health within our sports teams. And that's what got me even more into it and wanting to learn more about how the mental health aspect really affects our student athletes and even after you're becoming a student athlete. Because for me, it was really hard from going from demand to having two sports to now you have nothing and there's no structure, and your structure is your job, which is great, but where's that physical aspect of it? And for me, that was mentally tough to just go and drop everything and not be able to go and show up for practice and go participate in games and get that outcome and get my endorphins going, because that's how excited I am to play. And for me, understanding that, there's so many other athletes that don't know what's next for them. And going through my mental health training, I found that our physical abilities can be severely hindered by our mental abilities. And
Okay.
until we figure that out within our teams and our student athletes, how are you expecting to see success? So within my team, we do a lot of mental health focusing. If it's just a quick conversation with me and my assistant coaches with the player, or sitting down in a practice, making sure we're getting goals or making sure they're attainable goals and that we can achieve them, or focusing on one little thing. It's like changing our mindset. And I'm a big preacher of, yes, we focus on physical abilities of how you can play, how you look, how strong you are, but you could see all that. Mentally, you can't see that. And they go hand in hand more than we think. And mentally, if your best player is not in that game and they are completely taken out, then physically they're not going to be able to perform up to their capabilities. And then it's going to be a frustrating point as a coach of not understanding that. So a big part of me with my background in that is I try to make my team understand, like, it's okay. It's okay to talk about what's hurting you. It's okay if you do need that mental health day. It's okay if you need to take a second and do a lap around the field to collect your thoughts. It's okay to make a mistake. But what's not okay is putting it to the side, because once you put it to the side is when everything starts to intertwine, and that's when it becomes a problem. And I think that with that, my team is able to really put their best foot forward and make sure that they are advocating for themselves and they are focusing on their mental health. And if it gets to a point, they're not afraid to come speak to me or the other coaching staff, because it's a safe space. And that's my biggest thing of when I went through my mental health training, is how can I help these athletes understand that it's not a weakness to struggle with your mental health, but a weakness is not being able to talk about it and not being able to advocate for yourself, where this mental health part now affects your day-to-day life. So just being able to be a sounding board. And it's not just my athletes, like I've had other athletes from other teams being able to come and just talk about school, balance, just getting it off their chest. I think it's nice to know that these athletes feel that it's a safe space and that I do have the background to back up what we're talking about and give them tools. If it's CBT, DBT, tools of resources, how can I help? And not just my team, but lead by example for other teams and other programs to make sure that they are really focusing on the mental health aspect of being an athlete rather than just the physical aspect, which we see on the field.
So if my takeaway is correct from what you said, Coach, it's important for a student athlete to be in a good mental state so that they can perform, to the best of their physical abilities. Is that correct? What you're
Totally.
saying?
Yep.
That's great. And I like also that you said that you get to work with other athletes outside of field hockey and other teams. That's great. I
Mhm.
heard that from another coach I've interviewed. But finally, Coach, I'll end on this question. Two-part question. Just you're in a love of Mercy University. What did it mean to you in 2021 to be named the head field hockey coach? And just what are some of your favorite things about being a college coach, especially at Mercy, your alma mater?
Yeah. When I got offered the coaching position as the head coach in 2021, I was ecstatic. I couldn't believe it. I was just out of college, just playing here, and the fact that my athletic director, Matt Cochon, and my former lacrosse coach, Don Sachs, believed in me and thought that I would take this role and run with it and make the program continue to be successful. It was it was an honor because I know that these individuals are people who saw me as an athlete and watched everything I went through, and for them to see me be able to be a college head coach at a young age and take over with players that I've played with, because that was the transition with some of those players that they were former teammates of mine, and understanding how I can separate those boundaries. I think it was a really awesome opportunity that I couldn't pass up, and the support of my fiance and making sure that we were able to do this, and I could go all in and continue to give back to the school and the program that gave me so much and really helped shape who I am. I knew that there wasn't another answer, but yes, I want to make sure that I'm giving our field hockey athletes the consistency that maybe I didn't have on this field hockey team. And, I don't want us to cycle through, but I want us to make this a strong program and going into the ECC with all the other teams, going and bringing back what we started with when I was here as a player, and being able to grow and build upon that to make all of the alumni before me, with me, proud to come back and see what the program has done.